Hello, my name is Lishwan He. Welcome to another Deaf What interview. We're interviewing Paula Wesley today. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself? Hello, my name is Paula, and this is my sign name. I want to thank you for inviting me here today. I grew up being an artist. I'm self-taught. I learned different art forms and techniques by observing my grandfather. Both my grandparents taught me. My grandma taught me the cultural aspects of tools used in art making, and my grandfather taught me the history, language, and protocols. These teachings influenced who I am today. I am an artist, an Indigenous deaf artist. I have adopted many of my grandparents' teachings and characteristics, incorporating these into my sense of self and becoming a cultural activist. Wow, it's very powerful how your culture is so ingrained in who you are. You've incorporated a lot of teachings from your grandparents. Can you share your story of how you became an artist? My journey and experience have been really intense. I have met so many different people and communities, including but not limited to deaf communities, Indigenous communities, and non-Indigenous communities. I socialize and work with those communities. I provide engagement such as workshops, teaching, creating art, and presenting on topics such as history, land acknowledgement, art-related knowledge, how you can see artwork through a critical lens, and showing my artworks. When you face challenges, how do you overcome that? The types of challenges that I face include travel, money, and scheduling when I fly out of town. Another concern is who is paying for the sign language interpreters and deaf interpreters. That's the biggest challenge in figuring out who is responsible for covering the cost of the interpreters. They're there so people can communicate with me, the artist, and with other people in different cities. Wow. How can we see your artwork? You can see my art on Instagram. My handle is SIYAMOTSIYA. Great, I'll give you a follow. Great. That's where I post my art. These days, I've fallen behind with posting because I've been focusing on my work unrelated to art. I still post my art from time to time. It's important to keep a balance. True. As we're aware that you're an Indigenous activist, can you share a bit about that? Yes, I've been an Indigenous activist for a while. I remember I started when I was in my 20s, just doing a bit at a time. And when I reached my 30s, I built more self-confidence because my 20s were a time of a lot of uncertainty, especially because I was without guidance. When I was younger, I didn't have any role models that I could look up to. There weren't many elder Indigenous deaf people that I could relate to. I have so much gratitude for these people that I look up to, my family, my parents, my uncles and aunts, grandparents, and everyone else. So I depend on them, and not just only on my immediate family, but on my community where there's support available. I gained skills by listening with my eyes and observing my family. Our culture has a strong influence on me, allowing me to recognize the importance of human rights, language rights, which includes Indigenous languages, and deaf people's right to sign language, which is absolutely critical. It's their right to have the knowledge to obtain education and to introduce them to the world in an inclusive way, not becoming marginalized. We must include everyone. Can you tell us a bit about the importance of Indigenous land acknowledgement? Indigenous acknowledgement is a huge topic because it's not a new thing, but we need to go back to how we show our respect to their land, where we're occupying. working, living, playing, right? This means we need to learn to understand the culture and community of the land. For example, where I live right now means I must honor their ways. Here's a tip for you all. Here's what I would do in a situation where they asked me to do a land acknowledgement. I would thank them for the request. But this is not my responsibility to do this. But I can give tips and advice on signing or spelling cultural names of the lands. Really, many people don't realize they can take on the responsibility to do this, especially for non-Indigenous people, to share Indigenous acknowledgements. For example, land acknowledgements can be done at opening ceremonies, but Indigenous people can do a blessing or an opening prayer in the space that they're currently in. For online spaces on Zoom or social media, Indigenous people can simply do a prayer. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm always learning something new. So, how did the pandemic impact you as an artist? Wow, an intense question. I have thought about this. Myself, I've experienced a significant change. As an artist, I usually fly a lot because I live in northern BC, so I need to fly to Vancouver, BC. I tend to fly there in order to fly to other cities. I go all over to present, provide workshops, for art exhibitions, etc. These activities usually happen in person, right? It's always been like that. So I had to bring my artwork with me. Since the coronavirus hit, it's been a complete change. I feel like I have to stay home on a daily basis, which means engagement happens through the Zoom platform or other social media platforms or via email. Those are just a few examples. It does not feel the same. Let me tell you why. In person, there's an opportunity to socialize, meet people, and show my physical piece of art. Making connections. There's more of a connection. I'm able to show my work and be proud of it. Showing my art is a way of sharing with my community, which is a great feeling. Nowadays, I feel really disconnected. One thing that came out of it, not just for myself as an artist, but for other artists too, is that we can promote our work through social media and other platforms. The hardest thing to do is sell the art. Art is not always something that community members can afford, as their resources are being spent on food, clothing, living costs, etc. Working in mental health has been a factor in this difficult time, so people's budgeting has been so their priorities are different. It's nice having a show. I don't have to sell anything. I like showing my work so people can see my art, where they get a bit of joy from seeing my work, which can support people's mental health journeys and can help improve people's self-esteem. Seeing a nice picture, painting, any form of art, including sculpture, embroidery, they can make people feel good at the end of the day. That's a good idea. People do need more optimism. The coronavirus has been around for 2 years and people are over it. We've had enough. Oh yes. What are some of your future goals? One of the goals I've been wanting to pursue is to take up some online courses. Another goal is to learn skills on how to film myself properly. This way I can share more on Instagram and maybe try something new like TikTok. I haven't tried it yet, but it's a goal of mine to try it someday soon. I feel that I need to establish my presence on these platforms. I need to develop my skills with online networking because we are living in a new generation now, which is different from our pre-COVID times when we interacted in person. I feel that I need to show my work more. I enjoy focusing on my work these days because at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, I felt so disconnected until now. From now on, I have this advantage as an artist because I can focus even more on my art. My focus is not selling my artworks, but rather focusing on advancing my skills, including how to use drawing programs on the computer. I've been learning how to use it this past year, and it's a skill that I'm still working on. It's pretty new. I'm happy to have the opportunity to learn how to use a new tool and not only rely on physical, tactile artworks. Computer-generated art is something different, and it's so nice doing different things. Interesting. The impact of the coronavirus is not always a negative one. There are some pros to the pandemic, for example, helping you focus more on your artwork. That's so true. What gives you joy? My joy happens when I start a new project and I want to finish it. It feels good when I'm in the process of creation, but sometimes I struggle. I admit, just like any other artist. We always have those struggles. At the same time, when I finish my piece, it feels good. It's a nice feeling. Whenever I need a break, I go outside and take pictures using my iPhone. It's really nice when I finish taking pictures and I arrive home to clean up the pictures, then post them on my Instagram. When I'm in the forest, it really helps me to relax, breathe, and connect with the land, air, water, and earth. That is where I experience joy. I'm able to ground and get back to the realities of everyday life in the world. I am refreshed and ready to work. If I don't take breaks from work, I can become disconnected and overextend myself, which isn't good. I elevate myself by going outdoors and then coming back home refreshed. So that's one piece of my joy. I have to go outside more and participate in outdoor activities. That's so true. It's important to encourage people to go outside and see the beauty of nature. Nature is really important. It seems like the environment is headed for disaster. I hope that people can look after nature and make the necessary changes to minimize the impact that climate change has on the environment. I'd like to add another reason why I go outside as much as possible. We don't know how long we have left until climate change causes environmental disasters. This is why I go outside while nature that surrounds us is still here, trees, water. It's important to be grateful and not exploit the environment. Yes, exactly that. That's why I make the most of the outdoors while we are still here. We need more education. Indigenous education. As an artist myself, I educate on art through natural materials such as woodwork, painting, and storytelling. Nature helps me to connect and feel rooted. I am able to stand strong when I'm at work, and that allows me to enjoy my work more. If it was not for outdoor activities, I would feel disconnect. I connect to nature and then come back to the real world. I receive energy back to myself through the earth. That's one good thing. Yes, that's true. Do you have any thoughts that you would like to share with the deaf world? I have a strong message. Since the coronavirus impacted the world, the deaf community has experienced so many barriers to access. Some of the biggest frustrations are the following: access to interpreters, mental health services, employment, money, all of which I can relate to. What I'd like to say is, when a negative experience impacts me as an artist and as a deaf person, looking back at my experiences, I want to tell people to share their stories and their experiences. I show my experience through my artwork and how I've endured struggles as an artist who is an Indigenous woman. These topics stand out in particular for me: Black Lives Matter, Indigenous protests, and various activism work. A lot of things have happened in the past 2 years. The deaf community needs the education to learn about these issues, such as MMIWG, which stands for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, Two-Spirit People. These people tend to disappear in our community on Highway 16. That's where Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit people go missing. No one really knows where they go and who abducts them. Don't know anything. There are so many unsolved cold cases. I want the deaf community to know and understand why it happens. We may never know why it happens, but the important thing is that we educate them through our storytelling. When a deaf person says that they don't know, they could know, which means they're not incapable of doing this. They can learn. We need to reframe that thinking of I can't do this or that, changing the negative stereotypes. I want to let you all know that when you want education about that topic, I can teach via YouTube, Twitter, and social media such as Facebook and Instagram. These are examples of how to spread the word through these platforms. We can do that. We can also spread the word about adding captions. It's important to include that and show these videos. Remind your friends, community, and family that if they share a spoken video, that they should add captions. It's important to educate them to add captions and visuals so everyone feels more included rather than excluded. The deaf community needs to share their stories and experiences so they can show others that they are not alone and feel included. They may not have realized that they have been struggling, but if they are included, they may then be able to connect with the community. It's really important for deaf and hearing people to know that there are nice people out there with open minds and who do not judge. There are good people out there. Stay positive and keep going. Yes, that's right. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Paula Wesley, for participating in our Deaf What interview as part of the Deaf What Legacy Project. We want to acknowledge the Canada Council of the Arts for funding this project. Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. Bye.